don't want to put the cart before the horse. We don't want to do any too much speculation here, but there's something awry where they're thinking that there's something dealing with the border issue and potentially a foreign threat of some nature. It's got to be in the mix for them to go with Homeland Security.
And the one thing that comes to my mind is when we talk about trafficking, obviously that's something that could be of an international variety, and obviously it entails crossing the borders, and that might be the justification
I think
as
you
to
might
why
be onto something.
Homeland Security got involved. But before we even get into that, I got to ask you right now.
Yeah.
You know about this case. We've
Eboni
talked
K
about this
looking
case
like
against
auntie
Sean P.
over
Diddy
there.
Combs, obviously being accused of sexual assault, sexual trafficking, engaging in other criminal activity.
Yikes.
You've seen all of this take place, all of this come in motion. What were your thoughts when you first heard about it?
Gotta be quiet.
Well, you know, Stephen, I can't say I'm surprised. Unfortunately, you know, we are still very much as a society and as a culture dealing with the continued reckoning, as it will, with Me Too. So we know no industry is untouched. And so there was just a matter of time before we saw more of it as it relates to hip hop. So the allegations are horrendous. We all kind of, I think, were rocked a bit in late November 2023 when we saw the original Cassie of it all, which really started what became a snowball of what we've seen thus far. There's at least 6 current litigation spaces in which he's named, and the most recent being where he's a named defendant, not accused of sex assault, but of aiding and abetting the sex assault of allegedly his son. We're talking about Christian Combs.
That's right.
Yeah, so it's sad, it's heavy. Of course, all allegations at this point, he's not been convicted of anything. In fact, he's not been criminally charged of anything.
And
I
what
think
do we
that's
make
important.
of that? What do we make about the fact that it's been going on for weeks now? We've seen Homeland Security raid his homes in both Miami and Los Angeles, but no arrest has taken place. Because of your legal mind, your legal expertise, what do you make about the fact that no charges have been leveled against him as of yet?
I'm glad they asked that question, because since I've been covering this as a YouTube person from an apartment, a lot of times in the comment section, I've seen repeatedly a lot of comments that say something about, like, you know, why are so many people making a big deal about this? Diddy hadn't even been charged yet. Diddy hadn't even been charged yet. Diddy ain't even been charged to anything. Diddy hadn't been charged to anything. So I'm glad they're bringing this up, because I'm like, what is she gonna make about this fact that he hasn't been charged yet? Because from what I understand, a lot of times these high profile things like this, everybody starts snooping around before the actual charges come out. So I don't understand why everybody keeps doing the whole he hasn't been charged yet, because once he is charged, then what?
I don't make much of it, Stephen. The feds are fedding. That's what that tells me. The federal government is, we've been aware for weeks. I assure you this has been going on for months in terms of the investigation. Months of collecting evidence, getting witnesses to collaborate particular stories and testimonies. What we're seeing now are kind of probably the final stages of what this investigation looks like. We know the recent, you're talking about the home, and I want to get back to the Homeland Security piece, not the FBI.
That's right.
All federal agencies, but they're a little different. I want to spend some time there in a second, put a pin in it. But the fact that they specifically, Stephen A., recently collected cell phones, other electronic devices, that's kind of the end of the road, as we say. Those are going to be the final pieces that they're looking to corroborate, probably some pre-existing testimonials for some, I would imagine, a long list of potential witnesses.
Let's go there.
I'm sorry, a long list. A long list. I'm just saying, if you're watching this, Diddy did something to you, better get down. Get on that list. Just saying.
For a second, when we talk about Homeland Security, the difference between local PD, FBI, Homeland Security, what are we to make of the fact that Homeland Security is the one that raided these homes as opposed to the FBI or local police?
That part is...
Because if I'm not mistaken, the FBI BI raided Epstein, and Homeland Security raided Diddy. And for what I saw previously to this particular interview, people were saying that it was because it may be due to the fact that some of Diddy's alleged activities, whether it be the quote unquote trafficking aspect or even weapons, may have taken place outside of the U.S. border, but I don't know. That's just what I heard in another video.
Fascinating to me. Now that's where I'm interested, really, really interested, because normally we would see sex trafficking, racketeering. It sounds a lot like recently what we saw with R. Kelly. It sounds like other things we've seen in the headlines. The fact that it's not the FBI and it's Homeland Security. Homeland Security, Stephen A., is a relatively new federal division.
Okay.
Came about with the Patriot Act after, of course, 9/11. And don't ask me what Patriot stands for. I used to know and now I don't remember. But it's not patriot like I'm patriotic. It's an acronym.
Just got it post 9/11. It is a direct result of 9/11. So it triggers certain things, right? It normally triggers
you know what it is?
terrorism, to be quite direct, issues around border control, border safety. So when you think of some of these civil litigations that name Puffy right now, some of them also include the illegal selling of arms, the illegal selling of drugs, in addition to the sex trafficking. So I don't want to put the cart before the horse. We don't want to do any too much speculation here, but there's something awry where they're thinking that there's something dealing with the border issue and potentially a foreign threat of some nature. It's got to be in the mix for them to go with Homeland Security.
And the one thing that comes to my mind is when we talk about sex trafficking, obviously that's something that could be of an international variety, and obviously it entails crossing the borders, and that might be the justification
I think
as
you
to
might
why
be onto something.
Homeland Security got involved.
Yeah.
I'm looking at the case. His former girlfriend, Cassie Ventura, she brought against him. It was settled a day after it was filed. Is that what set all of this in motion, in your estimation?
It did. I can't help it. When you read it, I think of what my grandmother would have said: a day late and a dollar short.
I told you she an auntie.
One day.
Well, and let's kind of just name it, right? The one day says that obviously Mr. Combs and his legal team might have thought this was a bluff. And sometimes this happens when you're on the back end, meaning you're on the legal representation side of these types of lawsuits, Stephen A. Know that before somebody walks that lawsuit and gets it filed in the clerk of court, there have been numerous what we call pre-litigation conversations. Lawyers picking up the phone, calling your legal team. Well, do we have an opportunity to settle this? Well, I don't think so. Well, all of that led to no resolution, which is why the lawsuit was actually filed and then settled a day later. It tells me, Stephen A., that they likely thought that the lawsuit would never actually see the light of day, that there would be so much probably fear, anxiety, hesitation, that some of the, let's just say, horrendous and horribly egregious details that we all read in that very lengthy lawsuit from Cassie would never want to be exposed. The fact that there was a willingness to finally go there publicly prompted the very quick 24 hours. I don't think I've ever seen something publicly so quick, the settlement there. And yes, to answer your question, it set everything in motion. It opened the door, as we say, to now what we're seeing as a litany of civil litigation attempts.
Another woman, Joey Dickerson Neal.
Yes.
She filed a lawsuit a day before the Adult Survivors Act expired.
Yes, she
First
did.
of all, explain the Adult Survivors Act, please, and its relevance.
I can.
Get Stephen A. get this professional non-sports interview on. Explain that in its relevance. Check him out. This dang old powder blue. Go ahead, essay. Go ahead.
Just recently stepped aside from my tenure. I served 6 years, Stephen A., on a board of directors for a wonderful organization called Safe Horizon. We are the largest victims advocacy group for services of victims of violent crime in the country. We specialize on New York. I named the organization because we were very vital in leading what became a legislative effort. So I want to be very clear. The Survivors Act is a law. It is specific to the state of New York, and it allows a look-back window of 1 year. It says that if you have been abused and you want to be able to prove that in a court of civil law, so none of this is criminal, this is civil, these are lawsuits, civil litigation remedies, you have 1 year to bring your claim. A claim that previous...
Wait a minute. So they saying that they instituted a law that they had 1 year to bring about assault claims no matter how old they were? Okay. But they only had 1 year to do it, if I'm understanding this correctly. This is fascinating. I must need to look this up some more to get more info. But this was only in New York. Wow. See, this is why you have real attorneys and not just us that play them on not even TV. We play it on your cell phone or your tablet. Okay.
Would have not been viable due to statutes of limitations. So you could have been alleging that you were assaulted harmed
Assaulted. Harmed.
20, decade ago.
30, 40 years ago.
Well,
literally.
Dickinson Neal claims that nearly 32 years ago, the incident with her and P.
That's
Diddy Combs
it.
took place.
Let's think
What's the
about
411? Mary
what's
J.
it? Jean
Blige
Carroll
and-
recently
Diddy
won her
breathed on
lawsuit
me.
against Trump. I think it's on appeal again now.
Yep.
That was
old.
what 40 years ago, something plus. All of a result of this look back window.
Wow.
So this young
look-back
lady
window.
Joy was able to file one day before the expiration of that, and I think people thought they were going to be.
Hey, yo, if you in New York, but I think it's closed. Y'all lucky. Y'all, I don't know if more people knew about this look back window. Y'all better check with y'all local municipalities and make sure they ain't doing look back windows. Just saying. You remember when you was 22. Okay.